When I think of this synodal process, I have in my mind the image of a structure that exists, that is being remodeled, refashioned, restructured. And you have all the basic elements for this structure to be remodeled. You have a scaffolding. You have people who are involved in this process of restructuring and remodeling at different levels with different skills, different gifts. You have architects, you have masons, you have welders, you have joiners, you have all kinds of experts working to remodel the structure. That's how I'm experiencing the synod. That it's a remodeling of the church. And what comes out of this process is, I believe, something that will be different. Not necessarily new, but different. And such elements that will make this church become closer to the reality that God intended it to be, the way God imagined it to be. And so expect out of this remodeling process a church that is able and capable to listen to the realities of our times, to grow in this art of listening to its own members, and therefore empower them to bring their gifts, their talents, their expertise to build something different. When you talk about the African church, it's not a homogeneous entity. It depends on what part of Africa you are talking about. Yet, there are commonalities. And I think one of the common features of church in Africa is the growth. The growth in membership, the growth in relevance and significance, but there are also challenges. There are critical issues around economy and people's living standards, the struggles they face. There are critical challenges around violence and war and crisis. There are critical challenges around political dysfunctionalities. And I can go on and on. These are challenges which synodality calls us to be attentive to. And the question then is, what is the Spirit trying to teach us as a church in these contexts where people live and work out their lives in Africa? And so for me, synodality as a process is inviting us to be more attentive to the issues that matter for the people of God, and therefore become a community that is able to respond with passion and compassion to these crises. I believe that starting with that penitential moment was quite significant, because as a synodal missionary church, one of the things we're learning now is that it's a listening church. It has to be a listening church. But listening presupposes a willingness to be vulnerable, a willingness to be humble, and to realize that we're not exactly what we should be as a synodal church. There are mistakes, there are missteps, there are situations that remind us that this is a fragile community. And within this community, people have been hurt. And within this community, we have hurt people. And therefore, it becomes important that we're able to acknowledge that as a starting point of remodeling the church into a community that not only listens, but does so with humility. A community that learns with humility. I think that's, for me, represents the significance of this penitential moment. The one thing I now believe about the synod is that it takes more than one synod to address the plethora, the variety, the multiplicity of questions and issues that the church is called to face and confront. And therefore, beyond the synod, we will need to continue this process of conversation, engaging not only theologians, but also practitioners, but also people who are just going about their ordinary lives as parishioners, as members of the local communities. And some of these questions would need to be tackled. Questions around forms of ministry, who gets to exercise ministry, and using what criteria. Questions around, how decisions are taken within the Catholic Church. Questions around young people. Questions about women and the gifts and the wisdom and the expertise that they contribute to the growth of the church, how we recognize, honor, and translate this into concrete ministries. These are some of the debates that I expect will continue and become actually a feature of a synodal church, so that as church, we don't silence debates. We open up the space, that we say, to create a big tent where all the voices are heard, and there is space for everyone to voice their position, their opinion, inspired, of course, by the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's critical.